I know. 45-minute meeting after the telegraphing ahead of it was, nothing's going to happen. It's going to be very brief. The three of them in a room with no staff. Nothing really out of that meeting tangible like that we're talking about today. What do you make of it all?
Well, what's one to make of it? Like, I don't know. What would I say? Donald Trump, has got 1,000 problems right now, and Canada ain't one of them. Since Gallup started doing presidential polling, he's hit, I think, a new low for any U.S. president at this point in their administration at 36% support. I think he is in a very weakened position. Almost across the board. The off-cycle elections did not go well for the Republican Party, largely because of the president and his agenda, and one of the most unpopular portions of that being the tariffs. I think he's facing a high prospect of a Supreme Court striking down a number of his tariff measures, which I think would be yet another devastating blow for his administration. And you're seeing him having to do his taco. Trump always chickens out on another whole range of tariffs because of the unpopularity of rising domestic prices on foodstuffs. And now he's talking about tariffing fertilizer, Canadian fertilizer, much of which, unless they're going to discover potash where they haven't yet in the United States, is coming from the blessed land of Saskatchewan. I don't see an alternative for them. So what does that do? It raises food prices even more. Trump is in a lot of trouble. He's in a lot of trouble on a lot of issues. And I think the best thing that Carney and the Canadian negotiating team can do is be very busy doing other things, like getting trade deals with other people around the world, and allow political gravity to bring the president down to something more approaching planet Earth.
Do you think we can count on that political?
Of course, it's Canadian media talking about how big of trouble President Trump really is in. I don't think they feel the same way in America. But yeah, it's always funny that Canada tries to dunk on the president whenever they get the opportunity.
Gravity, though, Brian, and I think Corey lays it out very well, right? Like it is all pulling in a downward direction. But at times that hasn't mattered to Trump.
You're absolutely right to say that. And I think we have seen Trump deny what are sort of the adages of politics and just basically go against the grain of what we're all used to and somehow be somewhat successful, at least winning 2 elections in doing so. So look, I think Corey's laying out of the land of where things stand is accurate, and I certainly hope that's the case. And a weakened position with him would, I think, bolster our chances of having a deal for Canada that would work well for our economy. But look, as you kind of are hinting at in your question, Vash, I mean, he has sort of defied the odds. He has sort of gone against the grain on almost anything and everything that we've ever thought would stop him or at least nick him, and it never seems to. And whether it's because he is able to do things a different way that we're not used to, or whether it's because he just doesn't care and he just keeps moving forward and plows forward, and then there's consequences for others. I don't know. But arguably, it's all, maybe coming to a bit of a halt, or at least a slowdown based on the terrain that Corey laid out, but also because we would, in historic times, see a bit of a lame duck president fairly soon. But again, I mean, it goes back to your question. He's bucked the trend so many times. I don't think we can count on that. But nevertheless, I think that the idea that he still says he likes the prime minister, we'll see. Certainly, it's no certainty there. But I think we've all seen the president talk about Canada and talk about other countries in a much more bombastic way. So I guess, relatively speaking, that's not bad. So as Corey pointed out, maybe he just has other fishes to fry at the moment, and it's just we're not top of mind, which maybe isn't a bad thing.
Well, and sort of that lends itself to, I think, what's emerging as a more clear picture of what will happen, let's say, from the domestic perspective, Tom, which is, there's nobody rushing to make some sort of big deal with the U.S. president, but that means that those sectoral tariffs remain in place, and then they'll have to focus on what they do, like last week in the case of Algoma, how they keep those sectors afloat, if in fact that is the objective. For how long is that arrangement politically palatable?
I think that it's really starting to hit home with the average American that tariffs are hurting the average American.
I don't think so.
is a really good salesman. And
I don't think that's the case at all, or else you would hear a bunch of Trump supporters going, hey, we don't like this. This is absolutely ridiculous. When Trump has said that, you know, they're going to be abolishing parts of income tax or getting rid of all of the income tax for people that make, you know, under a certain amount of income, I really don't think that the tariffs matter a whole lot. In fact, most of the country in America seems to be united under the fact that other countries around the world have been ripping off the United States, and now they're getting tariffed.
he's like a carny barker. He's got, you know, a cure for everything, and you've got to listen to him, and he keeps explaining, and sometimes it works. But
a cure for everything, bro. This guy doesn't realize the hypocrisy. That's literally the liberals. The liberals have a cure for everything. They cause the problems, and they have the cure and the solution for all the shit that they've caused. Tom Mulcair is a liberal shill. He's got blinders on, and he's clearly got Trump derangement syndrome.
it's not Canadian companies. It's not Canadian governments that are paying the tariffs that will be imposed on potash. It's American consumers, because farmers use potash as part of their fertilizers on every single acre of field producing food in the U.S. So it might be a bit hard for somebody to understand that the reason their pickup truck is now costing thousands of dollars more is because steel is being tariffed, and as it comes into the States, it goes into those products like pickup trucks and cars, and they are paying for it. And Trump needed that money so he could give tax breaks to the richest Americans. That's complicated. Food is not complicated. If somebody explains to you that because Trump, and we've got to hold on to that clip forever, Trump's sitting there promising, we can produce more fertilizer. I love that. Never lose that one. But that's exactly what he does all the time. And here, the average American can say, hold on, if the Canadians had decided to put an export tax on potash, we would have been railing, saying it's going to raise the price of food in the United States. But somehow Trump believes that he's going to be able to con people into understanding that it's okay to tariff, it's turned into a verb, to tariff potash that goes into the American foods production system, and that American consumers are going to be paying for. It's madness, but it exposes Trump much more than the more arcane world of metal productions and such. This everybody gets, Vashti, simply because they go to the supermarket and they knew.
So it's really funny and ironic that Tom Mulcair is saying tariffs don't even affect Canadians. Like the tariffs that America puts on Canadians, it doesn't even affect us. It's the Americans that are paying for it. This doesn't make any sense. Blah, 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 blah. And then on the other hand, you have our liberal members of parliament that are crying, that are saying live every day, Trump's illegal tariffs against Canada, they're affecting our job sectors, they're affecting our markets. Tariffs are absolutely affecting Canadians. Absolutely, without a doubt. So Tom Mulcair spewing a bunch of nonsense saying, I don't understand why he would do that to Americans. But we've lost hundreds of thousands of jobs in Canada because of it, because plants are shutting down, mills are shutting down. They can't afford the extra cost anymore. It's getting ridiculous. It's getting bonkers. So you have two sides, like liberal shill and actual liberals, and they're both saying opposites, and they're trying to cover the entire playing field. It's weird. It's bizarre. It's manipulative. What you need is somebody who can actually negotiate proper trade with America and get a good deal. That's what you need. Somebody who's not willing to stick it to Trump and remove all the American alcohol and spritzers off the shelves and try to boycott different American products or even America itself. Don't go to America, folks. Travel to fucking Winnipeg in the winter. Yeah, don't go to Florida. Go to Saskatchewan in the winter. Come on, man. This is ridiculous.
Know their food's costing more because of Donald Trump.
Benzie, what do you think?
No, Tom and Corey and Brian are exactly right, Vashti. I mean, Donald Trump had to give a $12 billion bailout to American farmers because of his tariff policy today. So I don't understand how when they get 80% of the potash that they use, 80% of the fertilizer they use comes from raw materials from Saskatchewan, Corey's home province. It is it is so bizarre to me that they think they can invent a solution. I mean, I think part of the problem is that it's not exactly like the president is surrounded by a top-notch crew of really crackerjack advisors. He's surrounded by grifters, sycophants, second-raters. These are not people.
Wow.
He's not even surrounded with anyone who was in his first administration, which is, if you think about that, that's astounding. So he's not getting good advice. Not that he would take it if he did, I guess. I think we should do what our friend David Frum recommended and just buy.
This guy's right. He must be right. The president of the United States, one of the most successful businessmen that's come out of America, once a national icon before he ever entered politics, the most powerful leader in the entire world, is an idiot, apparently, and is surrounded by bad advice, says this gay little nerd from Canada on a CTV panel, who we don't even know his name. He's wearing a pink and white checkered plaid shirt under his suit. But yeah, you're right. You must have the answers that the president of the fucking United States of America doesn't, right? You on a random CTV panel, probably doing it for free. You're probably not even getting paid for this, and we still don't even know your fucking name. You probably have all the answers that the president of the United States doesn't have. You're right. Yeah, no, Trump must be wrong. You, a nobody, must be right.
At our time, keep and negotiate with Donald Trump next year when he's in an even weaker position, because as Brian said, he is a lame duck. The midterms next year will be a bloodbath. It's even if the Democrats continue to shoot themselves in the foot on certain issues, it doesn't matter. The hatred of Donald Trump, as Corey pointed out, he's underwater in the polls, and it will just mount as. They're suppressing the release of data about prices and employment. What does that tell you? That tells you that he doesn't want people to know how bad it is, even though all they have to do is go into their neighborhood Tops Friendly Market in Buffalo and see how bad it is.
I just have 30 seconds left, Craig. I just wanted to swing back. The question I had earlier was, like, how politically palatable is that, though? For how long? Like, we're holding out while these sectors still retain all this damage. Like, you're in Ontario. The premier is, like, vocal there about the auto sector. Like, how long does that last?
Spin up another ad. That's what I say. Look, I think it's palatable. I think, look, people, I think, want to see this work out well for Canada. And I think we're looking at a potential with some of these tariffs being overturned by the Supreme Court. The worst thing Canada could do was agree to some kind of deal where those are imposed upon ourselves through a voluntary agreement for a prolonged period of time in order to get through the next 6 or 8 months. I just don't think that makes any sense. Trump is in trouble right now. I think we should just let him be in trouble. It's kind of a version of what we were talking about with a good strategy for the Conservatives. Time, give them more rope, give them more line, whatever analogy you want, and bide our time on this, because it looks like things are trending in a positive direction. It'd be a mistake to go to the table now.
All right. Well, thank you all for your time tonight. I appreciate it. Our wonderful front bench, Brian.
Yeah, you're right. The president of the United States is doing it wrong. And these random panelists on CTV, whom we don't even know their name, they have the answers that Trump is looking for. It's so funny to see Canadian media pretend to know so much about America, yet consistently get surprised on what actual Americans really want and what actual Americans continue to elect and support. It's absolutely funny. But I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments.